Hey guys, Mike here. So, oh boy, what a day in the market. I mean, what a day for Apple, because Apple was the market until 1 o'clock, which I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. One of the biggest days actually any stock's ever had, because Apple set the third largest increase in market cap for any stock in the history of the market, right? And the first two spots go to NVIDIA. Meta has the fourth one, and Google has the fifth spot for increase in market cap in one day. All right, it was hundreds of billions. And we'll show you that. When I look at that chart, I'm like, woof. But understand what happened at 1, right? At 1 o'clock, we had the 10-year bond auction. And what happened to yields? They went down, right? Because I guess the 10-year bond auction went okay. And so yields dropped, and all of a sudden, here comes some other stocks. They start to flow in, right? But it was still heavily skewed to just a pathetic market as far as breadth, right? I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. It was just horrible, to be totally honest with you. But, you know, those are the things you kind of expect before FOMC. And, of course, you know, Apple, we've been talking about forever. Apple is the only Mag 7, 6, whatever it is now, that hasn't had an AI pump. So they had their event yesterday, which was underwhelming. And all of a sudden they go, whoop. People woke up out of bed today and they just pushed it up. It didn't even gap up. That's what's crazy about it. It didn't gap up like most stocks do. It just opened up 9:30 and kept going and just started destroying shorts. They kind of shorted all the way up, because it's very unusual to see Apple do what it did. Also going to some crypto and some other stocks to watch out for. Could be setting up for some big moves. But when you look at this right here, this is what I'm talking about. I posted this in the Discord at 11 o'clock this morning. Look at that. Look at that right there. There's Apple. Look at the rest of the market. Man, not looking good. Even the mega caps, they finally came at once yields fell in the afternoon after the 10-year auction. You got big tech, Mag 7 right there, communications, cyber, and then boom, everything else is red, especially like travel, financials. They were like 1.5% down for the day. And when you look at it, you can see like QQW. I mean, again, it finally turned green. It needs to turn this way, but the lopsidedness, if you ever want to know, just look at these tickers right here. Here is your percentage of stocks above the 200 moving average on the IWM, NASDAQ 100, all that. Here's the S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day moving average. I mean, that is not good. And this is the NASDAQ composite. 54% are above their 200-day moving average. Remember, the composite holds way more stock than the NASDAQ 100. So just hugely lopsided. I mean, no surprise. This is a pre-FOMC day right here, right? And Apple actually, the reason why I think it has such an explosive move, and every stock has had its AI pump, and finally you get this crazy candle right here, over 7%. Because they had two major things, right? It had the all-time high to break, and then that trend line I showed you. And you can see, I mean, it was actually pretty when you see it. It's actually very technical. It came up trend line, retested, moved up to all-time highs, retested, and then just took off. And people kept trying to short it all day. They just kept trying to short it, and they got wrecked, right? That momentum was huge. Look at that volume candle. I mean, that is huge. You have to go look to the left. Like, you're not going to see a volume count that big for, I think, a year and a half. I think I had to look back here a year and a half, and I finally found one. And that was like a 5% day maybe. And that was when the 2022 crash was bottoming out. All right. So it's not a big day. I think I found like 3 other candles going back to the '08 crash that were larger than 7%. Now, when stock market crashes like 2020, you'll see a few, right, when it's trying to rally up, because that was a 30-day crash. But it's just a rare thing for Apple. It's not like Meta or Tesla or any of the rest of them, right? The one that's going to be very interesting tomorrow to watch out for is this right here. Apple is not one of those stocks that stays overbought for long on its daily. And you can see right here, every time it gets overbought, within a few days it sells down, it'll come back up, the RSI starts to show divergence, and then you have a major sell-off in Apple. So obviously, again, where are we at? We're in overbought. But there's a lot of people buying a lot of calls on this thing, going out into July, things like that. So this is going to be interesting to see if we get a slight pullback tomorrow or not. But normally you get like a 2%, 3% pullback in, and then it moves a little higher, and then you have some, you know, double-digit sell-off, and it seems like. Unlike NVIDIA, which will stay overbought for weeks on end. Right? Now, does that mean Apple can't change its colors? Sure. Why? Because it's in price discovery, right? There is no resistance where it's at right now. And so it could absolutely continue to move up if they want to continue to push this up. And so again, while I'm actually in NVIDIA, I guess I'll go ahead and show you this right here. Obviously it did, you know, in flat, greenish, whatever you want to say here. But I mean, when you look at NVIDIA, this right here, you can see some bearish divergence on the RSI. It's been forming and stuff. That right there between like 112, 114, I mean, you can call it support if you want to, but that is very, very weak support with a gap right below it. And so just keep that in mind on NVIDIA, because it's clear big money is rotating into Apple, right? Another one, Microsoft. Here's another one. It's getting ready to set all-time highs tomorrow if it goes green. I mean, it's right there pushing up against it, and then it'll go into price discovery, right? So watch out for Microsoft coming in tomorrow, another heavily weighted stock, the most heavily weighted in the S&P. And then you got the Qs, right? So the Qs, once it got above that midline, continues to push higher. You can see on the daily RSI, we don't see any more divergence going on. The weekly, if you look at the weekly, obviously we have bearish divergence going on there. But again, like I said the other day, that can take weeks if it even plays out, right? Because you had bearish divergence on the RSI on the daily, but then it kept moving higher, and so now the RSI matches up, right? You look at momentum on it, it's still looking fine right now. But again, it's just the breadth. The breadth is, if they're going to start pushing Microsoft up to all-time highs again, and Amazon keeps going, and you see NVIDIA not fall, and it keeps going, they can continue to push it. But what you really want to see for a healthy move up is the QQEW. This right here has to start moving higher, right? This is the equal weight ETF, so more stocks start to push in. This is what happened last year around November. You started having QQEW have a big run up, so you had all these stocks pushing up with the Mag 7, 6, whatever they're called now, the heavyweights, and that's what pushes up in that crazy move right there. So that's what you really want to see, and it's not far from all-time highs. Like if you can get above that, guess what? It's in price discovery. It's like anything else, okay? And so just keep that in mind when you're looking at this tomorrow. The IWM did something very important today because it broke below 200, and it was down. I think it was like 198, and then it ended up closing above that 200 mark. Again, the RSI is below the 50. The MACD looks like crap right now. Trying to avoid going below zero, because if it goes below that zero line, that's not good at all. And so that's not what you want to see. But honestly, there's just so much money flowing into these tech stocks again that everything else is getting left out. And I mean, like plenty of sectors on the S&P are getting left out. IWM, transportations, whatever. And so again, for transportations, IWM, and a lot of these other sectors that start getting going, you guys start hearing more about rate cuts being basically implied going into September and the rest of this year, and that will depend on the meeting tomorrow. When you look at the moving averages on this, it's below the 100, it's below the 50, and you do not want this to fall below and keep starting to close below that 200 mark, because again, that puts like 192 in the picture and that 200 moving average. So just kind of keep that in mind. I know a lot of people keep betting on small caps and stuff. Again, they can rally fast. You don't have to have a cut to do that. All you have to have is the implications of cuts coming up. That's all you got to have. The rally before, we had no cuts, just had implications, okay? So it's all going to be about Jerome Powell, what people start talking about, and it's like, maybe we're going to cut in September, or we're not going to cut. And don't forget CPI. So if inflation data comes in well below tomorrow, even at where it's supposed to be, you can see a major rally, because you'll see the 10-year yield drop, right? Now, what could be maybe inverse to this, maybe it's kind of telling us what's going on, is Shopify, right? Shopify, it was even up green today when there's so many stocks red, and it's put quite a few green days together right here. But normally, you'll see IWM and Shopify kind of go hand in hand. They usually go in the same direction, not at the same percentages when they move, but you can see clearly now they're not doing that right now. Sometimes you'll even see Shopify move up before IWM moves up, or move down before IWM moves down, but most of the time they're going in the same direction. And the reason why, when you look at, Shop, why could that be the case? Because if money is actually trying to push Shop up, well, what does Shop do? The majority of their business is with small customers, small businesses. What is IWM? It's small caps, it's small businesses, right? It's not the Googles and the Microsofts and all that crazy mess. And you can see right there, it's like 64% clearly is small businesses. And so, maybe we'll see if that's the case or not. And so just keep an eye on that, and if Shop continues to push. Now, Affirm's another one that got to deal with Apple today. It's been sitting in this downward channel for a long time. But you can see a lot of times when it sits in those downward channels, and it just rips, right? Absolutely rips. And so if you can start getting momentum, start pushing back into this one, it's one of those ones, the low float stock, it can explode. It had a big day today, but still it has to get out of this channel. You can see a move up, right? And it don't take much, okay? I mean, just to get to the previous level right there, that right there is a 12% move up at 37.93. So to get up there, 45% move right there. And so again, this is a name to keep an eye on. Again, this was a news day, so I'll be surprised if you see a pullback tomorrow. But if you start seeing the stochastic and the RSI start to turn back up, then that's what we're looking for. That's when it absolutely starts to move. We know Fintech's had a big problem. This has actually been one of the hotter names and had the bigger moves and stuff, but you need the momentum to start to push into this one because it's a low flow stock. It doesn't take a whole lot to move it up. But again, this is a news thing with the Apple. I was surprised it actually didn't even move up more than it did, to be honest with you. But just looking at all the momentum indicators and stuff, you can see if it can break above that moving average right there. And you see this right here stays above 0 and has a bullish cross. You can get some really, really sweet moves out of a firm right there. Now, looking at crypto, it was actually red, right? It was like many other things. It was red. It's coming back down. I'll just say this. I'm no crypto expert. When I'm looking at this chart, it's back in the channel. Don't be surprised it pulls back down this area where this fair value gap is on the daily right here between 62.5 and 64 right there before you end up maybe getting a bounce. One thing Bitcoin and all of them do love is what? Like double tops and stuff, right? I mean, you just come here and type it in. Do I expect to hit what the target is? Absolutely not. But it wouldn't surprise me if it likes to shake a few people out. We always know that. Quiet before the storm, or whatever, however you want to say it. And so don't be surprised. That target's actually just right below where I'm telling you right there. And then before we start to move back up, if that's the case, assuming the market's holding up and everything else, the market tanks, Bitcoin's going with it. But it was interesting to see it pull away from the Qs today. Again, ETH, same thing, double tops. Do I expect to hit that target? Most likely not, because of that trend line better not break, right? That trend line actually comes into confluence with what? Daily fair value gap down there, which would be nice liquidity. Boom, bounce from there. So be looking out for that when it comes to earnings, all right? You're going to have Broadcom, which is a semiconductor, Dave & Buster's, obviously retail, and then tomorrow's the big day, right? Core PPI, CPI month over month, FOMC, Fed's funds rate, you name it. We got it going on tomorrow. So buckle up, because I assume it might be a quiet morning after we get CPI, after something explodes and moves all over the place, and then maybe it settles down, waiting to go into FOMC. Remember, usually the first move going into FOMC is not the move it's going to make. But if CPI comes in as is, or especially under, you know where the market's going, you know where yields are going. Yields are going down, market's going to skyrocket, right? Fed meeting, we know they're not raising rates, but it's all about, does he blurb something to just, oh my God, did he say rate cut in September? I think I heard him say it. And then the market's going to do what it wants to do, right? That's what I think the biggest event, it ain't even FOMC anymore. It's really CPI. Right, or maybe not. Maybe it's not CPI. Maybe it is FOMC. Now I'm thinking about it, but we'll find out. But either way, I expect it to be a super volatile day in the market tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. Give me your predictions down the bottom, how you think it's going to go and stuff as far as CPI and what you think the market's going to do. So hope you guys got something out of it. Hit the like and subscribe button on your way out as usual. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.